Welcome, everyone. Today we're digging into Richard Sakwa's discussion on the lost peace after the Cold War and Russia's pivot to Eurasia. It's a deep dive into how geopolitical transitions reshape the world.
Right. Absolutely. It's quite fascinating. What exactly do you take as the core message behind Lost Peace after the Cold War?
Well, Sakwa suggests that while the fall of the Soviet Union seemed to promise a lasting peace, the efforts by the West arguably missed the mark. Instead of stabilizing a new order, they inadvertently set the stage for a kind of second Cold War dynamic.
That's an interesting perspective. So, you're saying it's less about a sudden breakdown and more about a slow shift that allowed tensions to persist?
Exactly. It's like they thought, hey, let's just move on. But the unresolved historical, cultural, and political issues, especially with Russia, kept bubbling up.
Right. That makes sense. But don't you think some might counter argue that the West did a lot right in promoting democracy and free markets?
Yes, some argue that. However, Sakwa, being one of Europe's top Russia scholars, challenges that view by highlighting how a lack of genuine engagement with Russia's own security concerns, its historical ties to Eurasia, set up a flawed relationship.
Yeah, I see. And that ties directly into Russia's pivot to Eurasia, doesn't it?
Definitely, it's like, picture this. Instead of aligning solely with the West, Russia, recognizing a need for a broader coalition, started realigning towards Eurasian partners. It's as if it thought, I need to carve out a sphere that makes strategic sense to me.
That's quite a strategy shift. But why would Russia choose Eurasia over re engaging with the West?
Well, Sakwa argues that the pivot was a reaction to perceived neglect and misunderstanding by the West. Russia saw the need to reassert its influence in regions that share economic, cultural, and historical ties.
Absolutely. Interesting. So this pivot was less a sudden decision and more a gradual reorientation based on historical context?
Exactly, yeah. It's like when you feel that your unique identity and long-standing relationships are ignored, you naturally gravitate back to your roots. That's what Russia did by focusing on Eurasia.
Right, makes sense. I can see that. And in his talk, does Sakwa also touch on how the lost peace has influenced current European security dynamics?
Indeed, he does. He argues that this lost peace, or the failure to create an enduring post Cold War stability, continues to ripple across Europe. The tension isn't a relic, it's sustained by deep seated grievances and strategic miscalculations on both sides.
Yeah, that's a strong point. But don't you think some might say that these tensions are just normal frictions in international politics?
They might, sure. However, Sakwa's perspective is that these aren't just minor frictions. They're fundamental missteps that could lead to larger systemic issues if not addressed. It's like, a crack that's slowly widening over time.
I get that. It seems like his analysis challenges us to re examine our assumptions about Western leadership after the Cold War.
Exactly. It's almost as if he's critiquing the West for being overly optimistic, maybe even naive, about the transformative power of democracy and capitalism without considering the deep rooted legacies of
That's
history.
a pretty bold statement. I'd say it is. And what about the consequences of this pivot? Does Sakwa hint at the potential risks or benefits for Europe and global politics?
Oh, for sure. He points out that Russia's pivot to Eurasia isn't simply a defensive maneuver, it actively challenges the existing Western centric order. The risk is that it could set off a realignment of power that destabilizes, say, European security frameworks.
Very intriguing. That sounds like a strategic gamble. Is Sakwa suggesting that the West needs to recalibrate its approach to Russia?
Exactly, yeah. He implies that an overly rigid, exclusionary approach might only serve to worsen the situation. The West, according to him, should perhaps engage more directly with Russia's realities rather than clinging to
Right,
outdated frameworks.
You know, I wonder if this alternative perspective might flip conventional thinking on its head. Some critics might argue that re engaging could legitimize certain behaviors.
That's a fair challenge. I mean, while re engagement sounds promising, there are valid concerns about whether such a strategy could be exploited. But Sakwa does seem to advocate for a nuanced approach, one that seeks to understand the historical context fully before making policy moves.
That nuance is crucial indeed. And how do you think this reorientation towards Eurasia might impact global alliances beyond Europe?
Well, if we look at it as Russia leveraging its Eurasian connections, it could foster a broader multipolar world. Instead of a binary divide, imagine a constellation of regional influences: Eurasia, the West, perhaps even Asia teaming up. It's like shifting from a two-player game to a whole new league.
Right, that analogy works. That definitely adds a dynamic layer to our understanding. But, isn't there the risk that such a shift could lead to even more fragmentation?
Absolutely, and Sakwa acknowledges that. While a multipolar setup sounds balanced on paper, it also means new fault lines are emerging. The risk of conflict or misunderstandings grows when you have more power centers with competing interests.
That makes it a double-edged sword. It really is a high-stakes game. In your view, does Sakwa offer any guidance on how to navigate this precarious balance?
He doesn't offer all the answers, but his analysis pushes for a more reflective and realistic foreign policy. One that recognizes that, while idealism is nice, the actual geopolitical landscape is messy and deeply rooted in historical narratives.
Right, that historical aspect is often overlooked. I wonder if this could be a call for broader dialogues between scholars and policymakers. It seems like a bridge between academic critique and practical strategy.
Exactly. It's like a plea to understand underlying tensions rather than dismissing them as anomalies. By, engaging deeply with these themes, people in power might avoid repeating past mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a kind of urgency in his message, isn't there? Can you imagine what a world that truly grasps these nuances might look like?
It's hard to say, but it would be, a world where policies are driven more by historical realism than by overly optimistic projections. It might not be utopian, but perhaps more stable in the long run.
I like that vision. It's interesting how lessons from the Cold War continue to echo today. Do you think the West's strategy will change in response to these critiques?
That's the golden question, isn't it? Sakwa hints that change is necessary, though he's not overly optimistic. He believes that recognizing where we went wrong is the first step, even if the actual policy shifts might be slow and contentious.
Right, history does tend to repeat itself unless we learn. And speaking of learning, I suppose his insights also serve as a reminder that geopolitical strategies should be as dynamic as the world they govern.
Exactly. It's like policymakers need to adopt a mindset that's open to revising old paradigms. A rigid view simply won't cut it in today's evolving world order.
Totally agree. This conversation really brings home that the shadow of the past stretches far into our present, and that understanding those roots is key to navigating the future.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that even after decades, the lessons of lost peace and strategic pivots are still incredibly relevant. It's a wake-up call for anyone interested in global affairs.
Right, very thought-provoking indeed.